Hello and a very warm welcome to Wednesday Wandering with me, Cate Field. Wandering about stuff, not just wandering off. This is our gentle place each week to pause, to reflect and to explore the rich intersection of creativity, spirit and beauty. So whether you are walking or resting or making marks in a quiet corner of your sketchbook, I am so glad you are here. Thank you. Today, I want to wonder about joy. Not the light, sugary kind we're told in slogans and seasonal adverts, but that deeper, steadier joy that glows from the centre of things. Sacred joy, creative joy, resilient joy. The kind of joy that doesn't deny suffering, but insists on dancing anyway. It's easy to mistake joy for frivolity, but joy at its heart is an act of resistance. It's choosing to sing and dance even when the days are hard. It's about creating colour in the grey seasons. It's laughter that rises up like a psalm. Let me tell you about Sister Thea Bowman. She was a radiant woman of the 20th century. Sister Thea Bowman, born in Mississippi in 1937, she was the granddaughter of enslaved people, a black Catholic nun, a teacher, a scholar, a singer, who brought African American spiritual traditions into the heart of the Catholic Church. She was the only child of a school teacher and a doctor, and raised in the Methodist Church, but converted to Catholicism when she was a child, and she later entered the Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration as the only African American member of her order at the time. Thea Bowman was joyful in the truest sense. She spoke truth to power with a smile that could absolutely break your heart. She sang spirituals in full voice during formal theological conferences. She invited people, bishops, professors, other nuns, to stand up and clap along. She believed joy was sacred, that singing and dancing were forms of praise, and that to celebrate was to claim your dignity. Her joy wasn't naive, but it was radical, and it still echoes. Thea Bowman didn't just join the church, she expanded it, she challenged it, and she invited it to embrace joy as part of justice. She travelled around the country giving lectures and preaching and teaching and singing spirituals and inviting people across racial and cultural lines to a deeper, fully embodiment of faith. She spoke openly about racism within the church, about exclusion, about the pain of being welcomed only so far. But she didn't retreat from it. She brought all of herself, her intellect, her voice, her heritage, her humour, into the heart of the tradition. She once said, "I bring myself, my black self, my female self, my whole self, and I want to become all that I can become as I struggle to walk with God and to build his holy people." That phrase, build his holy people. It wasn't about piety. It was about a beloved community, and she did it with song and dance and a radiant presence that lit up every room she entered. In the final years of her life, after being diagnosed with cancer, Sister Thea continued to speak and sing from a wheelchair. And she once addressed the entire body of the US Catholic bishops and asked them to sing with her. Not just politely or as a gesture, but fully. She said, "Let me live until I die." There's something in that feels like Psalm 30, doesn't it? You turned my mourning into dancing. Her joy was a theological act, not a denial of suffering, but a refusal to let suffering have the final word. And I find myself returning to her story again and again because it reminds me that joy is not a soft thing. It can be fierce, it can be confrontational, it can sing in defiance, but always invites us closer to each other and, for me, to the divine. If you've never listened to her sing, I really urge you to find a clip. I will put a little clip below, because you'll hear a woman filled with holy fire, grounded by joy and love that insists on being shared. There's a lovely little film about her, and I'll put that below. So from the bright singing voice of Sister Thea, let's move to a quieter but no less radiant presence. Julian of Norwich, a 14th century mystic whose words continue to shine across the century. Julian lived in a time of profound suffering. She lived through the Black Death as it ravaged Europe. Political unrest shook the nation. The church itself was divided and uncertain. And yet, in the midst of all this, Julian received a series of visions that led her to write what is now believed to be the first book in English by a woman, The Revelations of Divine Love. Julian of Norwich was an anchoress, a woman who chose to live in solitude in a small cell attached to St Julian's Church in Norwich. And from this tiny space, she spent decades in prayer and contemplation. But what emerged from her solitude was not grim or despairing. It was one of the most joy-filled and hopeful visions of God ever written. She wrote of a God who is mothering, tender and utterly loving, a God who doesn't punish but patiently waits, a God whose joy in creation is unending. One of her most famous lines, of course, is, "All shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well." And that phrase is often quoted, but I think we forget its context. Julian didn't write this as a platitude. She wrote it while seriously ill with death near at hand, and she wrote it with plague raging outside her walls. And yet in her vision, she saw Christ within a serene face, assuring her not with answers, but with presence. And she also described a small object in the palm of her hand, no bigger than a hazelnut, and she asked what it was. And she was told, "It is all that is made." And when she wondered how something so small could survive, the answer came. It lasts and ever shall, because God loves it. So imagine that, all of creation held gently in divine love, not merely saved, but delighted in. And this is Julian's theology of joy, not the absence of sorrow, but the enduring presence of love. She believed that our very longing for joy, our desire to create, to love, to laugh, these are signs of God's life in us. Joy for Julian is sacred, not because it's rooted in this kind of circumstance, but in divine relationship. It's the endless oneing, as she calls it, between the creator and the soul. So where Sister Thea Bowman danced and sang joy in public spaces, Julian of Norwich tended joy like a candle in the quiet. Her joy was not performative, it was contemplative. It was the still point in the turning world, and it teaches us that even in solitude, even in shadow, joy is possible. Not because we pretend things are fine, but because we trust that we are held. It's an interesting thought, isn't it? The Psalms often return to joy as a response to deliverance and healing and the sheer wonder of being alive. And from Psalm 30, "You turned my mourning into dancing. You removed my sackcloth and clothed me with joy." I love that. And Psalm 98, "Sing to the Lord a new song. Let the rivers clap their hands. Let the hills sing together for joy." It's a vision of a world joined in celebration, where even the landscape dances. Later this week, the church honours the feasts of saints Peter and Paul, two men of fire and fault, of transformation and passion, both martyred, both remembered for their unwavering dedication. And I like to imagine that somewhere along the road, despite the hardships and confusion, they too found moments of joy. Meals shared and laughter under stars, the joy of knowing that they weren't alone. But long, long before psalms were sung in churches, joy was danced in the fields. The ancient pagan traditions mark this. They marked the turning of seasons, especially midsummer, where we are now here in the Northern Hemisphere, and harvest. And these were celebrated with dance, and it was performative, and it was sacred. It was gratitude in motion. We danced to bless the crops, to honour the sun, to express fertility, not just of the body, but of the land, the spirit, and the imagination. And I feel there's something deeply moving about that. The idea that to dance is to align yourself with life, to say thank you with your feet and your breath and your movement. So today, I offer you two joyful invitations. One, movement. Dance it down. Put on some music that makes your heart lift. Close the door if you need to, or go outside into the garden or into a field or onto the beach and move however you like. Let your body offer gratitude to the day. It doesn't have to be graceful. It doesn't have to be public, but just let it be your own sacred celebration. And my second little prompt is a writing prompt. Joy remembered. Perhaps you'd like to write a short piece, a paragraph, a poem, a list about a moment of joy that you've almost forgotten, a time when you laughed or sang or felt sunlight on your face. And let the memory rise and honour it with words. Joy is not a luxury. It's not a decoration. It's sacred fuel. It's how we remember that we are alive. It's how we keep going. So whether your joy today is full-throated laugh or a flicker deep inside, know that it is holy and it is spiritual. Dance between the worlds. Sing even if your voice shakes. Create with colour and with courage. Thank you as always for joining me for this Wednesday Wandering, and I hope your week holds a little bit of laughter, some light, and the quiet reassurance that joy is your birthright. So, until next time, I'm Cate Field, wandering and wandering. Take care. Bye-bye.